Well, we have an answer to what was kind of the last remaining Fever roster question, in my opinion. And that is that Kristy Wallace has elected to sit out the 2025 WNBA season. Before I get into the ramifications for the team, let me obviously say I hope all is well with Kristy Wallace. Clearly, you don't want anybody's career to be impacted negatively or in anybody's I don't know what's going on. If there's anything going on with her personally, I'm not going to speculate. But that's a big decision to make, to sit out an entire season. So let me first send out well wishes to Kristy Wallace. She said in a quote shared by the team, "This has not been an easy decision for me, but one that I make knowing it is what is in my best interest at this time. I would like to thank the Fever organization for working with me throughout this process, giving me both time and consideration, and for their support of my decision. I look forward to cheering the team on from afar during this upcoming season." So, obviously, you know, I don't know how significant the news is from the impact on the team because there was no real expectation for Wallace to play significant minutes or really any impact minutes. But and I don't know how this all works from a contractual standpoint. It says in the release from the Fever, Wallace's contract will be suspended and she will not be eligible to return during the 2025 season. The Fever will retain her rights. Last year, if you recall, Wallace played quite a bit for the Fever under head coach Kristy Sides and really did not play well. There's no other way to put it. Did not have a positive impact on the floor. Just had a tough time creating, scoring, finishing, basically anything out there. She gave effort. That you cannot question. She gave effort, but was kind of a detriment to the team. Not kind. I think she was a detriment to the team. And it wasn't until they made that roster tweak, and it took them a while to get to Lexi Hull. Katie Lou Samuelson got some run there. And, we know some of the players who didn't really help the team last year. Nalissa Smith amongst them, and she is gone. Katie Lou Samuelson amongst them, and she is gone. Now, Kristy Wallace, who was amongst them, and she is gone. The Fever have really overhauled the roster. Now, I don't know how much of this was mutual. I don't know how much of this is simply Kristy Wallace's decision. I have no idea. But I do know from the overall standpoint, and I would assume this opens up a roster spot for the team. From the overall standpoint, the players who were on the roster and not contributing are essentially all gone. And it's a little, I would say, I don't even know when to use the word bittersweet, but it's you wish the best for somebody's career and everything else, and maybe this is the thing that can spur Kristy Wallace to rediscover what she didn't have last year. And she played for Australia in the Olympics. So she did recently play basketball, but she was not great there either, I don't believe. And obviously she wasn't a big boon for the Fever last season and wasn't part of the plans or any of that going forward this year. So just like with Katie Lou Samuelson, it sucks to see that, she bounced back and got with the Storm. So best wishes to her as well. Erica Wheeler too, who was a good vet for the team and thought brought good spirit, but she wound up with Seattle as well with Colson sliding into that spot. Nalissa Smith obviously over with the Wings, and I just don't think she helped the Fever last year from a fit standpoint for other reasons as well. But all of the players who got minutes last year and didn't really add positive results are no longer on the roster. And regardless of how that came about, whether it was trade or not re-signing or a buyout, or in this case, sitting out the season, the difference, I think, is going to be stark when you get beyond the first few players on the team. When you say, all right, you've got Caitlin Clark. Of course, you have Kelsey Mitchell. You have Aaliyah Boston. We knew about that last year. Lexi Hull, by the end of last year, became part of that core. Everybody else has been changed. I mean, is anybody else really left in that regard? As far as I know, Dantas, who did in her minutes help the team. Dantas did help the team in a specific role, but the rest of the roster has been completely turned over. And that's an improvement for the Indiana Fever. There's just nowhere other way to put that. The players that they brought in are better than the players who are going out from a fit standpoint, and I just think a talent standpoint and everything standpoint. But that's got it's got to be a tough decision to sit out an entire year. Last season, Wallace averaged 4.7 points and 1.8 rebounds for the Fever. Again, there was a lot of games I'm like begging them to make the switch in the starting lineup. So I'm not going to like sugarcoat it or anything like that. From just a pure basketball standpoint, she wasn't good enough for them. But from a human being standpoint, I wish all of those players the best. Hopefully Nalissa Smith can figure it out in Dallas. Hopefully Erica Wheeler, the twilight of her career, has a good, tenure with the Storm. Hopefully Katie Lou Samuelson rediscovers herself. She had a baby and everything with the Storm. Hopefully Kristy Wallace takes a year off and comes back with renewed confidence or whatever. I mean, you could say that for all the players who are no longer a part of the team, but just from a, depth roster, any way to measure these things standpoint, the Fever have gotten a lot better. And that was kind of the last remaining piece of the team. When you look at the, okay, what's going to happen to this player? What's going to happen to that player? It felt like maybe the final, I don't want to even call it a major domino, because whether Wallace was on the team or not, she wasn't probably a part of the plans for what they were going to do and what they were going to accomplish. But it was kind of the final remaining question I had on, all right, from the players who were there last year, who's going to be on the roster this year? And it's a completely, complete reshuffling. And I think it's a wise reshuffling. No matter how all these things came together, all the players who I don't think helped contribute to winning basketball for the Indiana Fever are now no longer on the Indiana Fever. And the Indiana Fever won a lot of games as the season went along. So I think as a result of all of these things, they're going to win a lot more games next season.